There he is. So I'm going to take sort of a little bit of liberty and sort of remind everybody that today is the sixth annual. Now you'll say to yourself, well, the American FinTech Council is only, just 6 or 8 months old or 10 months old. How is this the sixth annual? And so, as I mentioned earlier, the American FinTech Council was a merger of the Online Lending Policy Institute together with the Marketplace Lending Association. I had the privilege of working with, as I mentioned earlier, with Professor Cornelius Turley and some other amazing companies to get the Online Lending Policy Institute off the ground and up and running. But none of that success would have happened without Marty Mitchell and the amazing, amazing team at Pro Bank Austin, who have not just been great partners, they've obviously been great, great friends. I do tell everybody who's still listening, and obviously we have a great panel coming up, Marty always brings bourbon when he comes to meetings. So make sure you invite him out. And if you go to visit him in Kentucky, I can assure you some great tours of Louisville Slugger and some of the greatest distilleries that Kentucky has to offer. And so, Marty, thank you so much. I know we're waiting just one more minute for Congressman McHenry to join us. I'm told that he's literally walking into the room as we speak. But thank you. Thank you for everything you've done over the last 6 years, obviously getting us here. We're on Zoom this year, but I hope I'm going to see you in person next year. And once again, I'm looking forward to the bourbon.
Oh, I hope we see you soon. And everyone here in Kentucky still talks about when you visited and, what an impact you had on our bourbon country, the horse country, everywhere that we got to go. So, I hope I hope things become more and more normal and we can do this in DC, in San Francisco again, and keep moving.
Yeah, the goal is to keep growing. And as you heard from Gary, I mean, this is sort of, another step in our long journey. And Marty, again, great to have you here. And we're waiting for another one of our friends who's participated in our FinTech summits in the past, Congressman Patrick McHenry, who's been a champion for financial services, but more importantly for innovation in financial services, is going to join us soon. Marty, I know that you're going to be talking about sort of moving policy forward, FinTech policy forward. You want to give folks sort of a little preview of what's to come? What kind of questions are you going to be asking?
Yeah, it's interesting listening to the innovation officer in the last panel. That's one of the topics, if we get to that, is, there's a lot of talk of innovation. How much traction has that really caused? Have we really moved forward in meaningful ways? And I'm sure there has been some. The other is, the congressman is our representative there, and to tell us what's going on in Congress, what meaningful movement that impacts all of us in the FinTech world is really happening. What's he expect to come from Congress?
And obviously we heard from Congressman Lynch early on. Would love again, and obviously FinTech doesn't know partisan lines. Or we hope that it doesn't know partisan lines. Curious to see sort of what the Republican sort of take on FinTech versus what a little bit of what Congressman Lynch. But again, Congressman Lynch is probably a little bit more forward thinking as it relates to FinTech, and obviously did an amazing job earlier this afternoon. And so we're eager to hear from Congressman McHenry. I'm told he's walking up on stage. Oh, is he here? He is signing in as we speak. Give him 1 second. He's connecting. You'd think we'd all be used to this by now, Marty. It's been almost 2 years. 20 months. You'd think we'd be used to the Zoom live.
Our team this morning were asking about you, Phil, was whether that you were technology savvy and did they need to worry about you during this course of events. And I assured them that you were good.
I hope Tammy on your team, by the way, and a huge shout out to Tammy at the Pro Bank Austin team, said nice things. Her and I have worked together on a number of occasions, and it's always a pleasure working together with your team. And so thank you again for your work today.
Absolutely. And as I tell everyone, all I have to do is listen to what they tell me. And when they say, sit here, hit this, do that, I do it, and it all goes flawless.
So far, you and your team are doing really well. I see we're still waiting for the congressman. He should be here literally any second. And again, I urge everybody to use the Q&A feature. I don't know how much time we're going to have for Q&A, but Marty and the team will keep an eye on it and see if we can work in some of your questions for Marty or the congressman. And again, today is a really packed day, and I want to thank you all for your patience thus far. And as I see here, looking at the numbers, it's overwhelming, the amount of people who are here and listening intently to the conversation. so far going well, and I shouldn't say that because I don't want to jinx it, but I really appreciate it. It's funny, I'm waiting for the text messages to come in where all my colleagues and friends are mocking me for my, desire to keep speaking. I promise everybody, I don't want to keep speaking. I'm eager for Marty to take over, but just want to make sure that the congressman is here. Thank you, Catherine, very, very much for your kind words. Again, everybody, keep the questions coming. Utilize the chat. It's an important part of today's agenda and our ability to make sure that we're being as interactive and responsive to your questions as possible.
Yeah, and I have the chat, the questions and answer up. So if you submit one, I see it real time, and I'll try to work it in. Absolutely.
Marty, there is already a request from Lending Club to bring bourbon to San Francisco. So let's make sure that happens. Obviously, there's a standing request here across River in New Jersey, and so you better start keeping a list.
Well, right after New Year's will be when the new bourbon will come out, and I'll keep everybody in mind.
Congressman, you're just in time to hear about the new shipment of bourbon that's on its way. Oh, you're on mute.
Sounds very nice.
There we go.
Excellent. Anyway, I'm going to take part. As I mentioned, you didn't get the chance here, but you have been a tremendous champion for us and for the entire fintech ecosystem. And obviously, as that continues to evolve, we appreciate your continued attention. And so thank you once again for joining us here at the American FinTech Council. And with that, I'll leave you in the very capable hands of Marty Mitchell.
Thanks, Phil. And it's great to see you again, Congressman. I know, in case you don't remember, I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, is what Phil was alluding to about the bourbon. And we've met a couple times when you've come to our forums, but I want you to see it goes both ways. This is my Tony's Ice Cream Gastonia, North Carolina t-shirt. My wife put that in my hands as I left this morning. That's her hometown. And she wanted to make sure
my hometown too.
Is that right?
My hometown too, yep.
So she wanted to make sure that I mentioned Tony's to you and RO's to make sure that you really were from that area.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. Best barbecue and the best ice cream. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we'll jump right into it, sir. You are that member of Congress that's been with us on this fintech journey, and we appreciate it. From a military, I think of it as the boots on the ground. So, if we could just start with your priorities for fintech in this Congress. What initiatives do you think that have the best chance or are the most important to you? If you could just talk through that for us, I think that'd be a great place to start.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of defense being played right now. We had a couple great years of bipartisan action on the Hill and with regulators. And now it seems like the worm has turned a little against innovation with the current administration, with some of the appointees in the executive branch. It's unfortunate, but I think we still have very important matters of value when made and true lender that have to be dealt with, and those are very important pieces of the innovation agenda. But things are quite complicated right now, given what's happening on Capitol Hill this week, this month, and this year, as well as some of the appointees in the executive branch who are not interested in pushing a pro-innovation agenda. They're much more focused on other matters of policy.
So the opportunities to reach across the aisle are limited right now? Is that
well, they're limited right now because all the oxygen and all the energy on Capitol Hill is currently focused on one piece of legislation, and that is the big whale, which is the reconciliation package, which has the Democrats' tax plan as well as the Democrats' spending plan. And that is taking really all the activism and all the energy for my Democrat colleagues is focused on that. And there's a lot more that we could achieve in a bipartisan way, but that's been their focus, and their intentionality is revolves around that piece of legislation. we've got a lot of things that we can do to encourage innovation across America, and ensure that we ensure that we keep our global lead in innovation and in fintech. But those things are on the sidelines for the time being, unfortunately.
Well, I think that's an excellent point that probably the most of us don't grasp exactly is how it impacts everything else, because we just listened to a panel that had the FDIC's innovation officer on it, and of course all the regulators have innovation officers and offices now asking for information, moving and pushing. So maybe that's kind of the question there is, are they able to make any headway? Is innovation really possible? Or to your point, is it now just kind of idle? We're not able to move forward, or we have these innovation officers trying, but can it even filter through? Can it get any traction?
Well, look, I mean, what the FDIC is doing, and Chair McWilliams has done a fantastic job there. And her term of service is different than the other federal regulators. So she still has a very smartly focused agenda on innovation, and is a quite forward-looking regulator, and has done a fantastic job. And so they're still focused on this and driving the technological change that happened in the midst of COVID. And codifying those things to change the way that oversight is done of the industry, how data collection is being done. I mean, a very, very smart-looking regulator to ensure that they lower the cost basis of regulation, and at the same time make it more effective and more timely. So that's a good thing. The additional good thing is that there's been bipartisan support for offices of innovation. I filed a bill a couple of years ago to ensure that we have a permanent beta testing, or what the British have called a sandboxes approach to RegTech, and ensuring that we update our financial regulations to keep pace with what's happening in the market. And out of that piece of legislation, an Office of Innovation for every financial regulator. And the last administration appointees voluntarily created these offices of innovation and made them significant. And now is my hope that this administration's appointees will keep those offices of innovation and ensure they have a say. And not just a place for people to complain, but a place for people to offer ideas and a way to spur federal regulators to keep pace with what's happening in the market. The market is happening. Innovation is happening, whether or not Washington embraces it. And what we need to ensure is that Washington get their mind wrapped around being innovation permissive rather than skeptical. And that is really just a question of inclination of these federal regulators on whether or not they're willing and interested in what's happening in the world of technology and the use of technology across the regulated footprint.
Oh, absolutely. And I think and we don't have to pursue that here, but the difficulty is when you come from a very progressive Chair McWilliams, and we are fortunate that she's able to span time. But to come all the way down to whether it's traditional banks or fintechs, the regulated entities, the actual regulator that walks in the door to conduct, whether it's virtual or not, the actual exam, may be very separated in knowledge or from what is being thought of, and that's where that leap is very difficult when the talk is moving innovative future. And yet the exam cycle is conducted on a very ancient method, if you will, and it's hard for the examiner as well as it is for those being examined. So I think my question in there is that it now seems to be in vogue about redlining, fair lending. I'm not saying fair lending and redlining aren't important, but it's coming out more and more. And I just had a long conversation this morning with a relatively small bank who's having a very burdensome redlining exam of which is just asking for extraordinary things. And then you go to the other leap, and those that produce big data, their data is also being used for that type of analysis. And I guess the question there is, in your discussions, is this an indicator of the next couple of years of the way that the agencies are going? Are they moving to be more aggressive in pursuit of fair lending or in redlining, those type of allegations? This one that I know in particular, there is no allegation or anything. It's just a data blip that an examiner doesn't like, and it's going through a lot of gyrations. And a lot of bankers see that as, are we about to become in some cyclic end of a really burdensome time?
Well, and that's an open question on how burdensome the time will be. What I do know is fair lending and redlining laws are longstanding. We have a rule of law approach as a matter of federal regulation that matters, meaning we have clearly posted rules. And when you have clearly posted rules, when you're in violation of those rules. What we don't want is a regime by which you do not know what the rules are, nor how to fully comply with the rules. That is what folks have called a star chamber effect. And so what we're attempting is to get the regulators to clarify this view. We've heard a lot about data collection, looking for problems, but also looking for data so they can try to reverse engineer rules. And frankly, we need to have a clear set of rules on these long-standing, very important laws for our society. And that means the regulators and the regulated need to have a clear understanding of what those things are. And the marketplace needs to understand. So a customer needs to know what their rights are, and that they're being protected. And the aggregation of data by federal regulators to reverse engineer this stuff is not the proper approach. We need to have a sharper approach to make sure that we have a U.S. Rule of law approach with clear signs of what is right and what is wrong.
No, absolutely. We do have a question from the audience, Congressman. It's from Michael, and the question is, do you see that innovations in crypto could disrupt the core aspects of traditional banking, payments, deposits, those type of things? Can the U.S. move forward through that without a disruption, keeping things stable?
Well, technology is constantly disrupting everything we do, and it has been since man created fire and figured out how to start fire themselves. And they went from likely from harvesting what is existing fire to creating the mechanism by which they can start the fire themselves. And then from a large campfire to cook food to a torch to see things at night. And going from a campfire to a torch is an innovation, right? And so, so since the beginning of time, we've in essence we've had innovation. So technology is following along that long-standing path of innovation and technological change that updates what we do. And along those lines, digital assets and cryptocurrencies are a new ingredient, and blockchain technology is a new ingredient that could bring down the cost of transactions and movement of value across the internet or enabled by the internet. It could quicken the pace of the movement of money through financial institutions or without financial institutions. So there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of action in this space, and I think it's largely for good. I think it's largely for good. But I do think that current financial institutions have a huge opportunity to harvest this technology to improve their offering to their customers. And to enhance the user experience from what is currently available through digital assets. The user experience there is not what it is for the general internet, nor is it what your customers are accustomed to when interacting with your institution. And so likewise, financial institutions can bring that user experience to those new forms of technology, make them more widely distributed, and at the same time, lower the cost of transactions. So there's a lot of opportunity set here. It's not all bad. It's not all good, but I think it's mostly good.
Yeah. No, you can see Phil's on now, about to give us the hook, sir. And but I want to thank you for all of us. You're always so gracious with your time for our group, and we appreciate you so much. And thank you for your time today. And I hope to see you in North Carolina soon.
Look forward to it.
Let's make it. Let's point
some of my barbecue. That'd be great.
Let's point out that you made the fleece vest more popular than the newest governor from Virginia. So so let's just make sure you get credit where credit is due.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Good to be with you all. And thanks for the engagement. This is really important now more than ever, that those with knowledge come to Washington and engage with policymakers. We need better public policy if we're going to be able to compete globally and enhance what my constituents and your customers want and seek. So thank you all for your leadership. Great to be with you. God bless.
Thanks so much, Congressman. Have a great day. And Marty, as always, an honor and pleasure to see you. And we'll hopefully see you all at the next event.
Absolutely. Thank you.